Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH3501 Community Media Leadership, and it's 8:30 on Monday. I don't think I've woken up yet, so let's see how this goes. But this is just a short overview of the topics that we'll be covering in this week's lecture, which is going to look at the general idea of community advocacy, which is a term that isn't really kind of popularly used in the UK. But it is used extensively in America and other parts of the world. And what I thought would be useful for us to do is to kind of explore some of the kind of key attributes of what it means to be an advocate. So if you think about it from the point of view of, say you wanted to write a role profile. We looked at this last week. I gave you out some sheets with the Myers-Briggs characteristics, the 16 characteristics, and asked how would you get people involved? How would you get people, what would they be good at? What would they be better able to focus on because of their preferences, their dispositions, if you like, and as they mature and grow and these things change. But this week, kind of maybe move the ante up a little bit and think about how would you put together a job profile for somebody who you wanted to be a leader, a community advocate, a leader in a community media organisation, and what are the kind of things that they'd have to take into account. So we want to start thinking this through in terms of practical exploration of this. But to start with, we need a kind of more general overview. So the first thing that we need to identify really is what is advocacy, and it has different definitions, and I'm sure I could spend 18 months looking at debates and discussions about this minute phrase of what advocacy is. That would demonstrate what the history of advocacy is, and maybe that's something that's useful for some further work and further research. So a definition of advocacy to start with is kind of that really when we choose to take a position on an issue, or we choose to initiate a set of actions that have an intent to change or define people's perceptions of those issues. So a kind of public policy or a private policy issue. So what we're doing as advocates is we're leading on an issue. So I suppose in the UK we usually use the phrase kind of champion, or we use the phrase campaigner. So we tend to look at it through the framework, if you like, of trade unionism or environmentalism, or those social justice campaigns. But I suppose what that is that's kind of a general approach to thinking about a wider range of issues, rather than the contribution that an individual can make in terms of the issues that they articulate and they voice. So what I've done is I've pulled off some job descriptions from some adverts online that kind of range from care home advocates working with older people in a care home to youth workers, people working with young people in groups to ensure that their voice is heard, young people and children, and from different circumstances, so from charities and from local authorities and government. And really I thought it'd be useful for us just to kind of map out some of the main issues that are described in some of these job descriptions, which you come to do a media course, and your first response is, well, you need media skills. Actually, the last thing almost that you need to run a community media group and be a community media advocate is a strong focus, an exclusive focus on media skills. You need these other skills which give you a wider range of awareness of different social issues, and we've covered those social issues in the previous year. So we'll look at these these job descriptions and see what they are. Then I'm going to tie it back in with the community media. I promise this is the last week I'll do this, but the advocacy roles that we've looked at the last few weeks. So the activist, the steward, the representative, the collaborator. And again, we'll tie it in with the Myers-Briggs type indicator roles. So it's things like the artisan, the guardian, the rational, the idealist. And then I think what that will be useful for us to do is to think about how these roles are played out, and how would we structure and organise these roles in a collaborative way rather than a hierarchical command and control kind of way. and which are the kind of skills, if you need leadership skills, why do we seem to resort to people who have the mastermind disposition and not famously Churchill was an artisan, he was an artist, and he conducted his operations in the arena of the Second World War as like a painter. That's what's been said about him. And he had people who worked for him who were masterminds and rationalists and could look at, but he didn't stick to that plan. There's our fire alarms being tested, so let's hope it goes off in a second. So this brings us back to thinking about the context and the scenario within which these skills and these dispositions and these roles are played out. So we're going to look at this in terms of redefining community, and we should be well practiced with this, so it shouldn't be anything here that's new. So things like communities of interest, communities and publics, the kind of characteristics that define the situation in terms of, is it urban, is it rural, is it based around educational level, is it based around immigration status? How do these different circumstances shape and form the different requirements of advocacy in those situations? So we'll look at some different approaches to advocacy, what's been said about the kind of benefit of the bottom-up approach, and why. Some good examples of that as well, and why, if you like, we need to define I suppose an advocate is somebody who's got a bit of a plan. They've got a structure to their thinking. They take what they've learned and what they've understood from the broader process about social development and social sustainability, and they've put that into an interrogative process where they can research and understand issues and situations, and they can look at them and they can define a set of needs that are embedded in those situations that are unique to each situation and that are unique to each group of people and range of solutions that they want to work with. So we'll look at this in some detail, hopefully not too much detail, and a couple of good examples, I think. I've posted up the notes on the DMU Commons wiki. They're at wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk, and I'll hope to see you at the lecture on Tuesday.